Hello, everyone. Happy Victory Day. We are unburdened of Kamala and Biden. Okay, so let's do a little celebration shoot off here. Figured today was the day to bring out the binary. Um, so let's talk about the immediate impact of this victory. Okay, so this isn't like long-term planning. This is just okay. We won the election. Skamala and Tampon Tim are out. Where do we stand? Okay, what can we expect? So, first thing I'm gonna say is, gun control is dead. Okay, dead, dead, dead. I don't think Democrats are going to be pushing that. Now, I'm not just talking about the federal level, but I'm also talking about the state level. I think that the Supreme Court has been kind of like walking around eggshells and going really slow and cautious because they were afraid. They were afraid that maybe the Democrats would come around to getting rid of the filibuster, stacking, adding more judges to the Supreme Court and stacking it. I think that that's over with now. Okay, so I expect the Supreme Court is going to start being more aggressive with enforcing the Bruin decision, okay? And all the other decisions that they made with regards to gun rights. So, gun control, dead, okay? Border migration situation for the next 2 months, 3 months, until Trump actually gets into the White House and is inaugurated. I expect that Biden, Kamala, they're just gonna like close their eyes, open the doors, and just not give a shit. Okay. I think that now the good thing is that the southern states have stepped up and are protecting their own borders. But I think that I absolutely think that the federal government is not going to do anything to help them. If anything, is going to encourage them to come in. So yeah, that's where I think we are with the border. I mean, for the next 2 months, I think that there might be some additional chaos at the southern border. You might have a situation where lots of people are like trying to rush over the border before Trump gets into office, right? We might see some of that. So that's something to keep an eye on. And also in the cities where the migrants have already come in, you might see an uptick in crime because again they're thinking that hey, they're about to be deported, so they're gonna try and grab whatever they can on the way out. Okay. Okay, economy. Okay, I think that the federal government, that different agencies that report different economic data, they've been holding back a lot of bad news, right? And they're able to do that, right? They're able to manipulate and massage the numbers a little bit to to give the results that they want. But what happens is when they do that, it kind of like builds up, and at some point it needs to be released, right? Because they can't make that bad news go away. It's there, so all they're able to do is like kind of shift it forward, or shift it, basically just hide it, and it remains hidden. It's there. At some point they need to release it. One of the things that they'll do, and I noticed because I'm an accountant. I mean, worked over many years working for corporations. If there was one quarter where we had like really bad results, you know what? We'll hold some of the bad news back, and maybe next quarter will be better, and then we'll release it into that, and it just kind of has like a smoothing out effect, right? So we try to, even in the accounting industry, we try to, we try not to have these jagged ups and downs. We try to smooth the numbers out a little bit. Which leaves room for some manipulation. Okay, so same deal with these different government agencies that report economic data. I think they've been holding back a lot of the bad news, and specifically to try and help Skamala and Tampon Tim in this election. And now that it's over, they got no reason to there's no benefit that they get from continuing to hold it back. I think they're just going to release it. And what's going to happen is we're going to see some really bad news really fast, and that tends to like kind of compound things, because what happens is when people start seeing bad economic data, especially a lot of it real fast, that all at once, they start planning on that, right? And that that tends to turn a recession into a worse recession. Now, to offset that, everybody knows that Trump coming into office is going to start pumping up more oil, and that's going to stimulate the economy. So that might have an offsetting effect. So anyway, that's just one of those things to be aware of. With bad, expect a lot of bad economic news that they've been holding back, that they are now going to release because the election is over. Okay. Let's talk about guns and ammo prices. Okay. So guns and ammo prices are going to go down. Okay. They've actually been pretty good. Like you can still get an AR-15, a good one, right, for $500, which is what you could get it for about 5 years ago. 6 years ago, that's what you could get it for. So gun prices really haven't gone up that much. The ammo prices, they've gone up, but if you factor in inflation, they haven't gone up that much. Okay. So I expect them that now they're going to start really coming down. Okay. So that's good for us. Okay. Now, good for us doesn't mean good for the gun and ammo industry, which is why a lot of times I think that the gun and ammo industry, supports gun control. Right. We've seen not recently, but in years past, it seemed like they were supporting a lot of the politicians that were pushing gun control. So from our perspective, yeah, cheap guns and ammo is a good thing. Okay. Optics. Okay, optics separate from guns and ammo. If you like Chinese optics, like I love the Holosun products. Okay, this is the Holosun 510C. I've got a lot of these on a lot of different guns. Some of them with over 10,000 rounds on them. These things, they're good. Okay, like this one over here, $300. Sometimes $275. Good stuff. Imported from China. I expect that what's going to happen is once Trump gets into office, it's possible that the tariffs that he puts on China are either going to make the price of these things go up, or they may even get cut off altogether. We don't know. Eventually, like even if the price of, like, let's say these Holosuns goes way up, I mean, American companies will then have an incentive to step in and start making stuff here, right? So in the long run, that's going to even itself out. But the immediate impact is that you're going to pay more for Chinese optics. Okay, so the thing to do is if you've got if you've been wanting to buy one of these Holosuns or any other optics that are made in China, get it now, right? That's what I would recommend. I mean, the price is either going to stay where it is or it's going to go up a lot higher. It's not. I don't think it's going to come down. Okay, so I don't think there's a good reason to wait. Right? If you've been wanting to buy a Chinese-made optic, get it now because price is either going to go up or you're not going to be able to get it at all. Okay, so there's something just something to keep in mind over there with optics. Okay, now this doesn't affect like the high-end Gucci stuff that's like made here in the United States. We're not talking about that, right? Which I'm specifically talking about, the Holosuns and anything else that's made in China. Now, keep in mind that a lot of the stuff that's American-made has Chinese parts in it. Okay, so and you're not going to know that, right? There's no way you're going to know, what percentage of an optic is made. Has parts that came from China. It's like if the majority of the stuff is from the United States, or they assemble it in the United States. I don't know what the current rules are. They say made in America, but that's not always the case. Let's talk about riots for a second. Are we going to see the riots of 2020? And the answer, I think, is no. We're not going to see any riots. Three reasons really. When Trump won in 2016, they knew that he was going to run for re-election in 2020. And they were basically building up and incentivizing these riot armies. Okay, they now know that Trump can't run in 2028, so they don't have that incentive. And leading up to this election, they expected Kamala and him to win. So again, they had no reason to build up these riot armies. It would not have benefited them to have cities on fire. So I mean, just the infrastructure, and the personnel for rioters is not currently in place. The people that I think were rioting 4 years ago, a lot of them have just aged out, right? They've moved on to other things. You know, um, they've had to deal with real life, like needing to feed themselves and clothe themselves. Um, so you don't have like a ready standing riot army ready to go. Okay. The other thing that the third thing, right? Because we said number one, they had no reason to develop these riot armies. Number two, a lot of them have aged out. Okay. Or, number three, the Democrat cities, I don't think want riots. Okay. And the thing that gave me a clue on this is when Trump had his rally at Madison Square Garden, the mayor of the city, who's a Democrat, Mayor Adams, basically said that, hey, he was trying to keep everything, calm and cool, because his words that, even if Trump wins, right, they still need to be able to govern after. Okay, so I think the mindset of a lot of these Democrat, leaders in a lot of these cities is that they don't want more riots at this point. Okay, they had enough of 2020 and the rioters. I think if a riot situation does start to develop, like I think one actually did start to develop in Seattle on election night, and I think the police just came in and just shut that down because again I don't think they want that again. Okay, so no riots. Okay, overall, I expect downward pressure on prices because they know that we're not going to have, and this overall, the groceries, everything, I think prices are going to start moving down. And the reason for that is that most people, most businesses don't expect that the Trump administration, a Republican-controlled government is going to be printing up lots of money. Okay, so I think that we're going to start seeing, like, immediately we're going to start seeing downward pressure on prices. Okay, it's going to start reflecting the groceries, and a lot of other things that we a lot of other necessities that we spend money on. All right, let's talk about Russia and Israel. What's going on over there? So I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians basically just like call a ceasefire and basically say that they, because the sense that I get is the Russians really don't want to have this war with Ukraine. My feeling has been from the beginning that this war in Ukraine was instigated by the U.S. military-industrial complex. They wanted to have this war. They helped put Zelensky in power so they could have this war. It's a good way for them to test their new weapons, to test military strategies. One of the things that I think actually came out of that war that's new and they wouldn't have known about if they hadn't had that war is the use of like small drones and the role that they play. So these are all things that these are all reasons why the U.S. military-industrial complex wants to have wars. Okay, I've said it before. People in the business of war always want to have war. Okay, and they don't even care which side is winning or losing. Okay, that's their business. Their business is to have war. That's how they get paid. That's how they get promotions. So I think that on the Russia-Ukraine side, I think that that war by large part was instigated by the U.S. military-industrial complex. I don't think that Russia really wanted to have that war, and I think, and then we'll see if I'm right or wrong. I think that they're going to not pull back, but basically do a ceasefire, right? Or rather, not be aggressive. Like they'll defend themselves if they're attacked, right? But I don't think that we're going to see them be aggressive until after Trump gets into power, and then he gets into the White House, and then they can start talking with his administration. Okay, so I kind of expect like things in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine, to actually slow down. I think that the Ukrainians military, again, we're not talking about the Ukrainian people, we're talking about the Ukrainian military, which are in the business of war. I think they're also going to have an incentive to pull back, right? If they see that the Russians aren't being aggressive, pull back, kind of collect themselves, reorganize themselves, maybe conserve some of their weapons and ammo because they don't know what's coming or what's not going to be coming as far as additional supplies. So both sides have an incentive there, I think, to kind of pull back and like just wait and see what happens after Trump gets into office and what his attitude is towards war, which we all know what it is. Basically, he doesn't want war. Okay. Now, on the Israel side, I actually feel different about that. On the Israel side, I suspect that because I suspect that Israel's mindset might be that now would be the best time to make that final push and try to do as much damage to people that they perceive as their enemies, whether that's right or wrong, or whether they're correct or not correct in that assessment. I think they would want to do as much damage as they can, and then once Trump gets into power, be able to negotiate or from a position of strength that, hey, we've got this campaign going on there, give us an incentive to make peace, right? And that's both trying to negotiate with the United States and also negotiate with all the other people in the area that they're fighting with. So I suspect that, there's just suspicion. I suspect that the Israelis want to negotiate from that position of strength where, hey, we are kicking everybody's ass here, okay? And it's up to you guys to give us an incentive, to stop fighting, okay? Whereas the opposite, I think, is true in Ukraine, because they're the ones getting their ass kicked over there right now. The Russians are exactly where they want to be. They're holding the ground that they want to hold. I mean, if the Russians wanted to occupy all of Ukraine, I think they would have done it by now. So they're holding the ground that they want to hold. So I think the incentive for all parties in Ukraine, Russia, is to kind of have a ceasefire and wait to see what happens next. Is Trump going to continue the war over there by continuing to throw supplies at Ukraine, which is basically like throwing fuel into the fire? You keep giving military people weapons, they're gonna want to keep using them. Okay, we're not talking about the common. We're talking about the brass, the generals. Generals become generals because they want to fight. Okay, it's just what it is. They're in the war business. Anyway, moving on from that. And I mentioned this before, Supreme Court, I do expect them to start being a lot more aggressive. I mentioned the gun cases before, but in general, with a lot of I expect them to really start pushing that originalist, constitutionalist approach to the Constitution, where the words mean exactly what they meant when they were written. Okay, and if you want to change the Constitution, you gotta have an amendment to change the Constitution. Okay? So I expect them to start being a lot more aggressive than that, rather than. Now, this is really important, replacement, okay? So there's a couple of constitutionalist conservatives on the Supreme Court that are up there 70 plus years old that need to retire while we have both the White House and the Senate, right? Because basically the president appoints and the Senate approves, right? So if you need both in order to make more Supreme Court justices, and there's no guarantee that you're gonna have the Senate after the midterm. So the older justices that are aging out, they need to be replaced within 2 years, so that's going to be Thomas, right? Clarence Thomas, who I love, Alito, and Roberts. Okay, now Roberts is the first one I want to see gone. Okay, just because they're starting to age out, and I don't want to end up in a situation where they basically pass away at a point in time when you got Democrats in control of either the White House or the Senate, and we're going to end up in the Ginsburg type of situation, right, where we're going to lose. Okay, so that's where I see us right now. So these are my initial thoughts. Let me know what you guys think, and we're going to do more detailed videos going forward on this stuff because it's very interesting stuff to me. It's also entertaining for me. I hope it's entertaining for you guys to watch. So keep watching, and we'll keep making videos.